Yeah, we like
The party?
we like to party.
That's the introduction. I want you to tell me how you feel about it.
Okay.
And I go fancy enough to say it in Latin.
Wow.
So it's ars longa, vita brevis.
Okay, what does that mean?
Yes. Art is long, life is short. Before I explain where it comes from and everything, I just want you to give me like, what's your take on art is long, life is short?
I think that it's absolutely valid. I think given through history, we've had art that outlasted civilizations. We've had art that has been still valid for centuries, that the word is still something that you can relate to nowadays. And I'd like to believe that we kind of, in this sense, die twice on this world, on this planet.
Okay, what do you mean
Once
by
in
that?
like the real physical sense, and then once when your name is uttered the last by the last person that ever knew of you. So I think in that sense, if you've created something in which like it can still circulate, you're kind of forever living.
Yeah.
Your spirit is alive, and you can be an influence beyond the grave.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think art is long. No, life is short, art is long.
Because it transcends your lifetime.
Absolutely.
And that's the goal.
Art, I like the there's like a little statement that just says, art is a decoration of space and music is a decoration of time. Yeah.
Where did you find this?
I'm not
Where
even
did you
100%
find
sure,
this?
but it's something that I truly believe in, and it's like,
Wow. I fucking
given
love
where
it.
you manage to decorate your things, sometimes those things can be either temporary or forever, but nothing is really forever.
Yeah. But oh my god.
Because it's
Like,
it's like the theme, right? It's like, for example, I don't know why I'm choosing this example, but let's say Berlin Wall, because it's technically the longest composition of art in the world. It's one long, it's like meters. And the thing is, it's technically meant to be temporary, but however, it's still lasting time, but it doesn't mean it's going to be around forever.
But the fact that we're still talking about it,
But we're
like
still
literally
talking about it,
right now.
Yeah. Means that it has left an imprint not only on politics, on this country, on society, but also on others and on art.
And the culture and what it represents, it's used all over the world as an example of like division, but also
Division, but also peace.
Exactly.
That's right.
And that's fucking amazing. I just like to say it, so I'm gonna say it again. Ars longa, vita brevis.
That's right. He said what he said.
That thing. It's, well, I wanted to reflect on this and connect it to the fact that sometimes as artists, some of us might have this lifelong goal of one piece of art. For example, I think it's Beethoven that on his deathbed got out, just stood out, stepped out, stood up, whatever. How you want to.
He didn't stand up. He was like laying in bed.
He crawled.
I believe his
Assistant?
It wasn't even his assistant. It was like his
Butler.
No, not even. It was another musician. Like he was a famous composer, and Amadeus, like Mozart, outgrew him like in years, and he was like very mad. But he was also like his mentor. Have you ever seen Amadeus?
Nope.
Such a good fucking movie. Won an Oscar. It's like about Mozart.
Yeah.
And if you don't remember, if you remember, Mozart was a prodigy at like 4 years old.
Me too.
So, no, but that's the thing. It was like,
how did you describe the moment in time of a piece of art that is visual or physical? How what was the sentence you said? Versus
visual or
music.
physical?
Yeah.
Oh, a decoration of space.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Versus.
it's also versus a decoration of time.
Yeah.
Like for every single aspect of a
track, of a music, of a composition.
He's a painter too. He makes pointillism.
What is that?
It's when you create a painting with dots, using dots, like to create a bigger picture. That's how I see Mozart, because he's using he's fragmenting sound. He's thinking
As
about the
that-
orchestra. He's thinking about the violin. He's
Oh.
thinking about the singer.
Yeah.
It's like a movie. There is
Frames and
frames
scenes.
and also evolutions. There's the
Storytelling.
peak. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So this guy is a producer. This guy's on some fucking Rick Rubin shit.
Oh my god, yeah, for
So
sure. Because the thing is, that's a very good point about music and the storytelling. Because one of the best ways that I've figured how to compose and create music is what's the emotional journey that you're gonna go through. And yes, we have a basic structure of okay, you got verses and chorus and intro and outro. But the songs that I like most and that resonate with me the most, those who defy structure. And they just go that's an emotion and you're gonna feel this other one. Of course, the basic structure works. Pop is flooded by the structure, but nonetheless, the fact that human in a primitive sense can feel that evolution of, emotion yet again, that's fucking fantastic.
I think to go back on the original question, which was do you think you have a piece that is forever or whatever, or something that you work on forever? I think for me, I do the complete opposite, because what you're talking about, the rawness of emotion, I think as humans, we should change and we should evolve. So something that I said last week, something that I did last year, it may not resonate with me anymore.
Okay.
It's almost like taking that moment and capturing it and just putting it on the page. It's like taking a photograph. So it's that feeling is at its most rawest, and that's why I need to finish that in its moment, because then it's complete.
It vanishes, yeah.
Yeah, that feeling is released off my shoulders. It no longer belongs to me.
Yeah, and it's like what you said about, how did you describe the moment in time of a piece of art that is visual or physical? What was the sentence you said? Versus
Visual or
music.
physical?
Yeah.
Oh, a decoration of space.
Yeah, okay.
But
Versus
it's also versus a decoration of time.
yeah.
But I think there's also another aspect to arts that I like to think about when I'm making things, which is performance art.
Okay.
Which is this line in between of one person that is very famous for performance art is a person named Marina Abramovic. She's a famous performance artist originating in Yugoslavia, and she used to go all over the world and create these crazy kind of momentary pieces where she would have it's the audience reacting to her that was the performance.
Okay.
Her first kind of I kind of hold on. The way that I'm gonna bring this up is I read her autobiography, and she talked about her first experience with quote unquote performance art, and it was when she was a kid. Basically, her father hired some man to come in and teach her how to paint a sunset.
Okay.
But it was some kind of avant-garde communist Serbian dude that
The best,
was kind of anyways, he came in, and instead of painting a sunset, he just went in, took the piece of paper, poured gasoline on it, and lit it on fire. And he goes, "That's your sunset." And he leaves. So that made Marina think about that moment, because she's whoa. So it's not wrong. It was a sunset in a very metaphorical way for a moment, because it's flames and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's no way I can preserve this.
Yeah.
Once the ash dries, the oil dries and it falls off the paper. Once the fire is finished, there's nothing about that moment of what it was that can ever be remade again, unless you redo the whole thing again.
And how do you feel about that ephemeral concept of a piece of art?
It's converting every single piece you ever create into a mandala. The mandala being those patterns that monks create in the mountains. They literally will create sand paintings, and they work on it for a day or two or for hours. And once they've created this big, beautiful, colorful piece, they blow it away. And it's a metaphor for putting in your 100% energy into something, knowing that it might be gone, or even with the intention of destroying it after.
Okay.
but it's to find fulfillment in the present. It's stoicism all over again. It's fucking they did something. Like,
Stoicism.
Something they did right. So it's kind of like, for me, I see it this way because sometimes like you work on something hard and then one line and you feel like it fucks it up, but that it's like acceptance. It's like, you know what, maybe I meant to do that. Let's finish this and I move forward. And that's kind of like a big reason to how I'm able to produce so much. Mm-hmm. It's because like I'm treating every piece for what it is. And then this thing is now finished. This is my mandala.
Yeah.
I think like I adapted this mindset.
Oh my God, no, keep on. But no stress. You broke some things in me that I'm glad I got on tape.
Okay,
God
I'm
damn.
Glad. Okay.
Did I press record?
I think I had to. Oh, I hope so.
Keep on.
Okay, good. Okay. I think I adapted this mindset where it was kind of like I was working a long time in the restaurant industry, right? And sometimes it happens in which like you get very stressed or overwhelmed and you can't stop thinking about a thing, and then you go to work and then someone's being rude to you for no reason and you're like, what the heck? Like, where do I go to escape this? But it's like, if you treat your job like a mandala in which I enter this space and I'm gonna now give my 100% regardless of how this is gonna outcome, my energy is now gonna transfer to other people. And we all together built this fucking beautiful thing. And at the end of the day, I'm not taking that home with me. I'm not taking these, like, tomorrow I'll come back and I'll use my brain and get paid to use my brain. Not to be out here.
Yeah, but I love that fucking thing. And sorry to interrupt, but goddamn, you broke a couple of things in me with what you said, because I came to realization right here, right now, about the mandala that you're describing. It's patterns in sand.
Kind of looks like these things, like just like dots.
To the camera.
I did a henna on my hand.
Okay. Well, no, what you inspired me is the fact that the process is the most enjoyable part of art.
Yes.
So many times, and it should be. And as of now, everything is always recorded, always being permanent, right? Yeah. Available in its permanence. But the art that you describe, which is performance art, it's the moment, it's ephemeral, and there's nothing that can come close to the moments that you lived at that specific place in time.
100% a live music performance versus you hearing it. Like,
exactly, and this is where I'm going completely crazy over that, because
bonkers.
because it resonates with two things that I have to describe and ask you how you feel about it. First, music-wise, I got maybe 1 or 2 or 3 100 songs that are completely unreleased. And they're at versions sometimes 8, some of them 34, some of them 47. Yeah. And what I mean by that is the fact that they're still in their permanent versions, completely evolving, but never shared, all right?
Yeah.
And I love to be able to just go back to the mandala and just enjoy the construction of the mandala. And then I feel the pressure so often to be like, oh, you should release and show to the world that you're able to do it. And I'm like, but it's the process of creating that I like most, not the end product. And this is what you made me realize that, because
absolutely, man.
Live music, just like I did yesterday, it's the thing that I love most, the creating part of the music and the playing live of the music. I don't give a goddamn.
It's literally the process, and it's like everyone needs different things to be inspired. But also, like, the process is, like, you'll find when artists have, like, a conversation, they love talking about, like, what inspires them, like, why they, like, not so much why even, because usually that, like, comes out of a very deeper meaning. Like, for me, I wouldn't even want to say about why I'm doing something. However, the process of it, like, is so much fun to me. And I think the best way to explain it is sometimes a visual artist will spend months painting something, and then they find the title of the painting.
Yeah.
And then I decide this is called whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't start with a title. It doesn't start with a mission. It starts with the process. And then at some point, you just decide. And the thing is, like, I've started paintings and it's taken me technically a year, because a year was passed between the beginning and the end. Mm-hmm. Time-wise, maybe 100 hours total. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I believe that there's things that There's a painting that you can mature with and you can grow with. And there's music that you can mature with and grow with.
Yeah,
so for you to
definitely.
come back, you're only making it better.
Yeah.
You're only adding
Well,
more.
not all the times, but
not necessarily,
yeah.
but it's like your version of having 100 takes or 100 versions of even a completed project is like me going into my sketchbook.
Yeah.
I'm sketching faces, I'm not selling it, I'm not ripping out the pages. It's just for me to practice. It's for me to get better. So I think like the same as like every musician probably starts with doing a few covers before they create their own masterpiece.
I think, yeah.
They're gonna sing someone else's songs before they know what they have to say themselves.
Exactly, and I feel like I don't know personally any artist. I never really came to ask to anybody anyways, but to whom I was like, did you start with a creation or a cover? Because of course it's it's part of the process. It's an easy
even Mozart surely played some other classical tunes before he got started. Like he was a prodigy, but he copied something.
Yeah, and one was the time that there was no music and people were trying to get it. But that's the part that I don't know. I don't have the knowledge or expertise. I
think as long as there was ever sound, there was music.
I think, well, I don't know. I think, yeah.
We weren't back in the caveman days. We weren't there. I couldn't tell you.
Be right back.
Yeah, be right back.
Where's the time machine
We're gonna go travel
again?
back in time. I mean, cave paintings.
You got your...
Me, I'm just doing cave paintings too. Murals, one big cave painting.
That's true.
A decoration of time and space. Ooga booga. Bonk.
Breaking my mind
Boink.
and going boink.
Yeah.
That works so fucking well. Oh my god. No. Yes. And
Yes and no. See, two statements can be true at the same time.
we go quantic talking.
Quantum mechanics over here.
Quantum talking,
Mr.
eh?
Schrodinger's
Podcast.
Schrodinger's cat. Yeah. It is and isn't at the same time. It both will and won't.
Because, oh my god, there's so many conversations that are just not... Oh.
It's okay.
Wow.
It just be like that sometimes.
Yeah,
but
but-
that's the thing. It's like when it's a creativity. It's like a good disease. It's like when you get hyped, it like boosts like
It's contagious,
momentum.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and that's one thing about human is that...
But that's why I feel, sorry, I was gonna say like, that's why I feel sometimes even posting these unfinished, unmatured project is important because it creates a type of momentum, a domino system for your creative
progress,
sphere, yeah.
I like that, yeah.
Because like technically nothing can ever be finished.
Yeah, it could always be improved and that's one thing I'm struggling with. I've come to the same conclusion not so long ago about the fact that, say, posting on social media, making it permanent, the only way I feel comfortable about that, it's the unfinished version, because I like sketches that are unfinished, quote unquote unfinished, the best, because they leave space for me to keep on picturing and imagining what it could be. Sometimes when it's too finished, I'm like, okay, that's it. Yes, it inspires me, of course, yeah, cool. But I would love to see what was it like halfway there?
Yeah.
What could have been? But I'm stuck in the what could have been sometimes a little too much. But I'd like to come back to...
Because sometimes people focus on the entire picture, but you can definitely fragment it. And with music, it's like so malleable that you can create like loops out of it. You can create samples. You can even like challenge and change like the instrument of the same chords, and it entirely changes the dynamic.
Yeah, and the rhythm of that melody, because you can go like very like super structural, or you can add grooves to it, so it like skips a little bit of the beats.
POV, we describe what music is to you guys. Hi, do you know what music is? It's kind of like these grooves and these beats, and like it is and it isn't. Yeah.
Sounds that aren't
vibrations.
Resonance.
Yeah.
Okay, but about that, let's go back to the caveman type thing, because I was about to say that I think what I believe is how music was invented at the first time is, okay, you got cave paintings, all right?
Yeah.
No language yet.
I'm gonna pretend to be a cave painter. Okay, and? Oh, ha, 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 ha. Ooga, googa, googa. Is this insensitive to cavemen?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I hope it's not, because for me it's
And then he's like, summertime and the living's easy.
and then somebody
world
drops
summer.
somewhere, like some of the people up
And
and
then
give an
that
opinion.
big black brick from 2001 Space Odyssey came in through the center. Have you ever seen 2001 Space Odyssey?
I think, yeah, but I don't remember
There's
that
just
part.
that very long entrance scene of like monkeys, like it's like evolution, and it's like dun 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 bum 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 bum.
I do remember the song.
Honestly,
I feel like
2001 Space Odyssey kind of overrated, but
hot take.
they got that one, you know, they got. I get it.
Okay,
but
wait.
You're not missing out a lot.
Here's a special Lego brick that
Yeah.
gives you the power to change and optimize Space Odyssey. What would you change the most? What's the one thing that you'd go and be like, that's, yeah, get rid of that, add that, or change that? And it would...
I would add more jazz. There was zero jazz. There was zero jazz in that fucking movie, and that's what I feel is sorely lacking.
So you appreciate jazz?
I love jazz.
Okay.
And jazz loves me.
Okay. Why would you say jazz
It's a
loves
mutually
you?
beneficial, because
So
it's like
it's a synergy.
it's like there's a saying about being understood,
Okay.
and it's like, I think, a Shakespeare quote, and it says like to live your life misunderstood / to die misunderstood is okay, because then you don't spend your whole life explaining yourself. And I feel like jazz doesn't explain itself to anyone. It just is. It just takes every single genre and mashes it all up. And it's kind of chaotic, but also can be very calm and soothing. It can be the foreground music, the background music. It's very diverse. And I feel like I can relate to that.
Oh.
Yeah. Because when I see jazz, I go like, I'll mosh. I'll
see.
be in a mosh pit for jazz, dude. And that's why I think it likes me back.
Okay.
It's like energy,
Transmutation.
you know, synergy,
Exactly.
electricity, jazz.
the flow.
You like jazz.
I like jazz.
You like jazz.
Does jazz like you?
Oh, yeah, that's a good. But more importantly, does jazz like you? Because
Yeah.
like that's actually what we're here to talk about.
Yes. If you're not loved and liked by jazz,
And I don't want to hear it. So yeah, 2000.
that's another discussion.
Yeah.
And okay, so jazz, jazz loves you.
Yeah.
And you say you feel like it's just like you in a way. Is it about the modularity of jazz, because it brings a lot of things and it can be a whole lot of things? Is that why you
What
say?
I like about jazz is that to like someone that doesn't know it, it sounds like nonsense. But the thing about most jazz is that it takes like the most skilled individual, like someone who truly understands music to its like core values and its like substance.
Okay.
And then they go abstract.
Okay, so wait.
So it's like someone who knows everything and they don't give a fuck about what you think. They're like, oh, I'm gonna prove you that this is gonna like be the best thing that you've ever heard. So it's like, I think like to be a good artist in any sense, you have to like culture yourself for like find influence, like be inspired, be open to everything around you. And I feel like jazz, there's so many evolutions to it, and like there's different like Japanese jazz, like I don't know, like Louisiana jazz versus like European jazz. Like they all have these like different Pokemon evolutions of the same thing. Yeah. Yet all
Pokeball.
at its core, like the people who play it, I feel like they're kids. They just want to play. Like,
Okay. Oh, let me reflect on that. Kids that just want to play,
but like
ends up with jazz.
like the intellectuals. Like
Okay,
kids. But also
intellectual.
whatever, yeah. It doesn't have to be.
Intellectual kids playing music equals jazz in that instance,
But
right?
also it could be the other, like this. I feel like the opposite of that would be, I guess, like punk or something, where it's like people come in with like no understanding of an instrument and then just like start going for it.
Okay. So
So jazz is like the punks of the classical world. Hot take. But then again, I just like. But then again, I just like jazz.
and
I'm not I don't play any instruments, so therefore I'm not speaking out of that sense. But as someone that's been surrounded by this music my whole life, like it's just little things that I've noticed. We're getting to know each other better. You know what I mean? Me and jazz.
But, me and jazz.
Jazz and I.
Is there someone whose name is Jazz?
There's so many.
Seriously?
Yeah, dog.
Fuck. I've been living. Goddamn.
Okay.
Let me get back to the kids playing jazz.
Okay.
So I want to go on this and ask you: do you think everybody, especially kids, maybe, could be an artist, have art and creativity inside of them?
I think not only kids, but I think what's most important is for adults to also have like an inner child, because like at some point in the system, in whatever part of the world, like at some point we grow up, quote unquote, and we are told to suppress that kind of childhood like wonder.
And what is that? Could you describe a little bit more what is that inner child and childhood like wonder?
I think it's to live your life with no fear, no judgment, no kind of like, because like sometimes it was what we were just talking about, like even eye contact and stuff. It's like I fear being judged by someone else, but a kid doesn't feel that yet.
Okay, what?
A kid also doesn't.
Very young
Yeah.
kids. Okay.
I feel like that's inner child. I think child is like between, I don't know, fucking 1 to 10, whatever. And it's also, I think inner child is like, it's creativity. It's to ask why.
It's curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
It's that I feel like when I used to when I was like in high school, I used to like randomly babysit some neighbors like and stuff. And there's like that age of like 7 and 8 where it's just like, dude, why? Why everything?
Yeah.
I'd be walking with this kid and he's like, what's that? And I'm like, construction? Why? And I'm like, they're building a new building. Why? And I'm like, I don't know, probably to have why? And then it turns into things where just like, oh, the grass is green. Why? And then I'm like, damn, photosynthesis. Why? And it like goes deeper and deeper, in which like sometimes as adults we don't have time for this.
Okay, hot take. You just made me realize that why and overthinking the whys of stuff is the moments, because I do have that a lot of times, but the moment I have it the most is when I smoke weed. And I feel like maybe perhaps some of us is probably influenced by that. If I smoke weed, I'm gonna get that natural curiosity that I'm seeking. And I don't know for you, but when I'm quite high on the whys, the thing I like consuming the most, except for food, is documentaries and
Yeah, just information.
yeah, like I told you before, animal documentary. When I'm high, I'm just like, that's the most intense lifestyle. Oh my god.
Dude, it's all like, it's kind of like that domino effect. For me personally, like I smoke weed to kind of like tone myself down because I'm on the ADHD side where I'm like hyperactive naturally. But it definitely does pose those like why questions. And I love to just like snowball on the whys. I think last week my why snowball was, what's the speed of death? What's the speed of life? And then it took me to what's the, for some reason I ended up looking into like the stats of how fast an ambulance comes in certain regions of Montreal. But it's like all these things that we don't think about, and then the more you look into it, it's like the more you ask why, it also makes you realize that like there's things that are wrong with the system. You know what I mean? So there is a reason to why, they don't want us to ask why. But it was like little things like fuck that ambulance thing. So the speed of death, quote unquote, like is from one article that I was reading about like the death of egg cell.
Okay.
And they found that the rate of an egg cell of its dying is 2 millimeters an hour.
Okay.
So it's not fact, but to me I find some sort of metaphor in there. Oh, death moves at 2 millimeters an hour. How profound. And it can mean it can actually move at any, like, depending on your context, right? And then, funny enough, I'm looking
Wow.
deep into what's the speed of life, and there's no answer to that, because it seems like life is this instantaneous thing. It just happens.
Yeah.
And then it
Oh
made
my
me think
God.
into, I'm like, okay, life and death.
It's paradoxical.
Ambulances.
Yeah, it's paradoxical as fuck.
100%. So it was like, and then I was looking into ambulances, and it was like saying that the speed, like the standard speed for an ambulance to reach an emergency should be below 9 minutes. So it means 8 minutes and 59 seconds should be the standard met all the time.
Okay.
Do you know how often that standard is met in downtown Montreal? Like 50% of the time. That's not good. The more you go north, I think it was like West Island was like even worse. They told you to like call the fire department instead, because they're
What's
gonna
the
get
number
there
of the fire department?
faster than you.
Because 911, I think it's just like they call emergency and fire and
No,
however,
you're
whoever.
right, but there is the specific one that you can call if you do know the number.
Fire department,
But it's ridiculous
1-800.
because now that means that the fireman has to know both to be a doctor and to be a fireman, and he's expected to now get there in time. Well, like what's stopping? Like, there's so many components like traffic and but it's like crazy to find out little facts like this that I never thought about.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, damn, like they can't even get to like these little things that you thought are like kind of like set are not even that standard themselves.
So you're holding yourself on ground zero, which is no ground because
Yeah.
there's so much below it.
So it's like kind of like a double-edged sword. For you to release your inner child, you start asking why and shit, and then it forces you to kind of be in the spectrum of like, okay, now I know, like, or think too much. But then that's when it has to be like a balanced thing. And then that's when you're supposed to use your inner child to express these big topics.
Yeah, and when you can meet with somebody else's inner child of that same curiosity and you can
Yeah.
exchange, it creates something very beautiful.
Yeah.
Because those whys are kind of like on a tier list of like, you go from one very complex topic and you go why, and you gotta ask yourself fundamentally, why is this the way it is?
Yeah, and it's like people I find myself collaborating with easiest, or artistry-wise, is people who are, it's acceptance. Again, all back to, it's
Stoicism,
like
acceptance.
knowing that there's a piece of you that might be fractured or like unseen or like unhealed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people's inner child. And it's like using that as a positive tool. Like the way that I've used my inner child is like I've created this character, right? Like this kind of orange-haired girly with like whatever, and it like
What's her
represents me. I don't know. Maybe Angie?
Amy.
Amy Winehouse, Amy Warhol. But that's the thing. I don't think it has a name.
It doesn't
I don't
need-
think it will have a name because it's meant to have no face. It's meant to have no kind of. I don't like to even hypersexualize it, even though I am a woman. I don't really put any kind of features that will identify it as either. It almost is a little bit androgynous in some factors.
So you like it to be kind of anonymous?
Yeah, anonymous, also open to whatever perception of gender, and also even fucking, dude, like skin color, because like I paint them like The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Everyone in The Simpsons is yellow.
Yeah.
And it's not a commentary on culture or race, it's just like a way of like saying like, oh, this is a character.
Yeah, although some characters in
There
The
is, like,
Simpsons
you're
are colored.
absolutely correct. I'm just referencing it that
The most-
I
yeah.
personally took inspiration that this thing is like, I'm sorry, but there's no one that's that shade of yellow on this planet.
Hopefully,
Unless your kidneys are failing or
if
something
you're
like
that shade of yellow,
See a doctor,
yeah,
please.
call the ambulance
Call
or the fire
ambulance,
department or the
or start
police.
walking to the ambulance, because
Yeah.
apparently the ambulance is not even gonna maybe
8 minutes,
yeah.
59.
8 minutes. Yeah, crazy finding numbers for things sometimes.
I'd like to reflect back on the paradox of, you mentioned the speed of life. And I think what you meant by that is the speed of life being created, right? Or just this.
Or life. It could be 1 second every second, because it's as every second passes.
Yeah.
It could be that, you know, theoretically the Big Bang was just one moment, and we can't put time to it. We can't say how much time that it took. We can say that it took like 8 billion years or whatever to get to a certain
Time
point.
machine.
Back to us being just like, ooh, like space bacteria, little quirks and stuff.
Wait, did you just break my mind and announced out loud that
Space
bacteria in space?
Dude, 100%. I don't
How
think bacteria just manifested itself.
Bacteria in space would require it to be alive and, you know, surviving, but the conditions in like alone bacteria floating in space.
I think that if there's a sign of water...
Space bears.
Yo, we're going so deep. By the way, I am not a fucking astrophysicist, nor am I a scientist of any kind. I'm just talking about what I vaguely know about space. And from my understanding,
Poor child.
my opinion,
Curious.
yeah, it's my inner...
Let's blame it on that.
Basically, what I think is there is a sign of water, there's a sign of life. And if you're familiar with the greenhouse effect, if anything were to, like the way that our atmosphere was created, it must have been like an asteroid with a small bit of life on it, aka water. And for you to have steam and to have things like start to generate, you have to have a form of water.
Okay. I will branch out in many different directions.
Okay.
That will be probably the last
Bacteria
chapter.
is totally aliens, dude.
Of course, but technically
They can
not.
live to be like they can be frozen, unfrozen, and then still cause a fucking
I know.
ruckus.
Oh yeah.
Bring the motherfucking ruckus. Bring the motherfucking ruckus. That was the bacteria circa -1 years before the fucking Big Bang.
Shut
The
up.
bacteria were just like Wu-Tang, listening to Wu-Tang. See, Wu-Tang is before.
Oh my god, we deciphered it. It's perfect.
Wu-Tang Wu-Tang, bacteria, Big Bang. In that
order. What did we say about sharing the same thought?
Yeah. I was just gonna add on the thing about like characters and inner child.
Yeah.
Because like creating a character is like you're able to have a dialogue that doesn't hurt you, that's not you. It's almost like an alter ego.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, let's say I'm hurt, but I make this thing go through it. It's not me. It's this thing that's hurt.
Because we all kind of have a voice inside our head, like an inner monologue. It's not the same as inner child, right? And to characterize it, I think helps us characterize it as a character, right? Helps us understand how he or she thinks, reflects, but at the same time it comes from us, so it's a representation of our understanding. We are understanding.
It's the subconscious.
So
like,
we're not interstellar.
we're Matthew McConaughey floating through space and time.
No, we're inceptioning. I know it's not the right term, but we're layering the understanding of our own self.
Introspective?
Kind of, but the fact that we're understanding our understanding, it's like the tier.
Psychology?
That too, and plug some other.
Understanding thyself?
Thyself, yeah. And inner child, I came to a own version of it that I have perhaps many inner childs that I like to identify as some concepts or parts of my personality that sometimes I'm just not the same person. Every single second I'm a little bit different, right?
Yeah, dude.
And it's the concept for me of, you know, you got the mind palace where you can organize how you think, right? And I like to believe that in that mind palace of mind, and maybe for everyone as well or not, it's fine. Those inner childs are actually wandering around, and sometimes I stumble across them as I walk through a room, as I walk through my day. Oh, so that inner child is there communicating with me about the fact that you're feeling that emotion right now, and it's
like literally like an inside when there's like the happy and the anger and the sadness.
Yeah, the inside out type of thing, but it's like a big manual.
I think I'll just speak for myself personally. I don't know how everyone else perceives it, but I too have different versions of the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like these subconsciously get created when you're like in a tough place.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just like a tool for you to not suffer. It's like a mask.
Like
it's
dissociating from it?
Not necessarily disassociating, but like in my head, if I could make like a character that's like the strong mafia chick or whatever,
Like an LA
maybe
Noire.
that version of myself is better dealt to deal with some things that my true self is not, because I'm
okay.
shy or I'm reserved or whatever.
Okay.
So it almost feels like you have them on a row, and then I go, you know what? This person
Choose a
knows,
character.
like, yeah, like, and they're just like waiting around, like, huh. But
Hadouken!
yeah, but it's like, I think to characterize it and to label it and to be aware and to accept is when you can use it as a good thing, as a tool. Because otherwise there's just like too much things going on.
Yeah.
I think for me, there's definitely times even in my own art that like I use different inner childs. In times of like in our first interview that we did, we spoke about loneliness.
Yeah.
So during that time, like I go more with abstract, more like introspective, more like deep space shit. And then when I'm more like my playful self, when I'm trying to make a commentary or like a punk statement, it's more this like character that I've created. It's like almost like a strength version of me. This one can do whatever they want.
So that's your relationship with that character.
Yes.
Of that.
And usually if I do this girly character, usually not always, I do still put eyes, however not on the face. Because it's like me saying that I'm seeing this, but I'm an outsider looking in.
So, yeah. And
so I had one with like the phone. The girl has no face, but the phone has two eyes that are directly looking at her, and there's like a mouth at the thing.
Okay. Okay, and that represents for you, the telephone has the like communicating and observing.
It's mostly like I'm making the inanimate objects more human, and then it's representing it in itself as a metaphor. It doesn't matter what item it is. It's more about the commentary of an outsider looking in, but it's you. You're the outsider.
Okay.
And you're looking in.
Of course, because if you're the voice inside your head, who's listening? So you can't.
But it's also like it's like taking a step back. It's like sometimes I have to step back from my painting and like look at the bigger picture, and then I'm like, okay, like now I know what to focus on and stuff.
Yeah, totally. And the fact I when you first enunciated that you don't put the eyes directly like in the face of your character, anonymous character, for me it represents the fact that sometimes like you have a different part of your personality interacting, like choose your character. Okay, well, it's a tough situation, I'll choose tough me to handle that. And the tools as to perceive reality as mouth and to communicate as the mouth, to communicate as the mouth and to perceive reality the eyes could be placed on different part of your personality to better understand what is going on with your life and to communicate. Just
exactly.
Like that, choose your character.
And at the end of the day, it's like we're all different in different situations, and I think like people have to understand that like sometimes humans do have masks. To me, I don't see them as masks. I do see them as like individual characters.
Oh.
But for me to like be able to like network, to speak to people, like sometimes it can be very socially exhausting. So I do find myself, for me to like sustain myself and not feel physically and mentally burnt out, there are versions of myself that I put out given the situation.
Whoa, just like...
Because I'm sorry,
wow.
but me speaking to 100 people at an art show or something and saying the same thing over and over, it's exhausting, dude, sometimes. And some people just don't get it, and that's fine. But it's
fine
hard.
Fine is not enough, but I totally understand that, and I like to call it a social battery.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that it's fake or anything. If anything, it's a very real version of myself.
Yeah.
But I think some people are so afraid or unfamiliar with this, like, having nuances and layers to who you are as a person. That I'm not just one, nor am I multiple, but I'm this person that have decided that I want to do a lot, and this is what I need to do to sustain myself, and in the way that is like the most balanced for myself.
I'd like to ask you, do you think that art, your relationship with art, helped you understand those versions of yourself? Because
100%.
Okay, tell me more about it. Because like you have that anonymous version of you. Does it come? Was it born from art? Like because it became a piece of art from time to time, right? So does it come with you painting and then realizing, oh, that's an alias for me. That's an avatar for.
I feel like for the longest, like if you look at the evolution of my style from like beginning,
Mm-hmm.
everything about me as a person, as an artist, has changed and has evolved. I think like when I was in middle school, high school, that's when I was drawing a lot. I would fuck up every sketchbook that I had, like every agenda, like things that are not meant to be drawn in. I would just like
Now
fill
it is.
it up with color.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in high school, I was trying to get involved with more like using my art as a tool to like get a message across, which was like I was in the school newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
so I would like do visuals for a writing or something like that. So that was very like, oh, you need a visual representation of this. It wasn't so much like creative, like me expressing myself.
Okay.
At some point in the middle of high school, I started more expressing my kind of inner, I was just going through a lot of shit. Like it wasn't exactly the happiest time in my life for many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself just like kind of hiding away, like, and working on this because it just fulfilled me. It like calmed me down instead of having like a nervous breakdown or instead of feeling like depressed or sad. It was just like the one time that I can like zone in on something,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get that instant gratification of, oh, I've created something. And therefore, like now it's not a bad feeling. It's taking that bad and turning it into good.
Transmutation.
There you
go.
Acceptance.
But
And I think my
yeah, go
biggest change / evolution is like this year, like honestly for the last like 7 years, I've been, yes, an artist, but it's only this year that I decided to finally pursue it full time.
Mm-hmm.
For 7 years, I was like evolving in the restaurant industry, going from literally like line cook to chef de partie to
President of the universe,
sous chef to fucking head chef to manager.
Okay.
And then it just like, it's not fulfilling in the same way. I'm like, why do I feel this way for a job where all I want to do is like create art because that's what I'm doing all this for. That's what I'm making money for. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to just create.
But did it help you in a way to learn?
But that's what I'm just getting to is that like, I think this character that I have now, this yellow person with the hair and stuff, it's honestly, it's a new evolution of my character, but it's coming from like, I ended like a very long relationship with like another artist.
Okay.
And I feel like I came out of it feeling a little even lost of who I am.
Okay.
Because like all of this time I was like focusing on like the bad and like if I felt destructive, I would really perceive it as destruction. I would paint like a car on fire or like skulls and doves. It was much darker than what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got my own place and I kind of restarted my life in a certain way, I started having those introspective thing of like, who am I? What do I have to offer that's different from other artists? And it was like, and then it was me, like, I'm like, okay, for me to know who I am now, I have to also go back to little Angie. Like, it was, like,
Whoa.
dude, from December to, it was a lot of just me, like, introspecting, and it hurts sometimes. But it's necessary. You have to go through it, because it was just like me. I'm like, what did little Angie like? What did the little kid in me like that made her so happy? And it was things like Keith Haring, Andy Warhol, Jean-Michel Basquiat. This is my holy trinity of, like, people that inspired me to start, people that I was visually like stimulated by, things that I wanted to achieve. And also I did a lot of graffiti and mural for a while, like that I kind of like abandoned for another goal or another vision that I kind of started resurfacing back, that like turned into this thing of like, my favorite color is orange. So I started just like fucking around with that thing of like, let's put my favorite color in so that way I see it and now I feel happy. I'm not sad about anything. And now I've transmutated that and turned it into something positive. But it's like a version of me, but it's a 2.0 version of me. And this one is stronger, this one has other things to say. And I don't think without, like, no shade, no tea, like, about the ending of that relationship, but it's like, it was also so necessary for my personal growth.
Okay.
For it to end like that. Because maybe otherwise I wouldn't have asked so much about why or who, or you know what I mean?
But yeah, the tears of the wise.
Yeah,
the
and it's
curiosity.
like not necessarily that I didn't know who I've been very comfortable with feeling who I am, like, since I was a kid. But, like, to now be able to use it as almost like a hieroglyph. This is, like, now, like, my hieroglyph of my
It's
new
your logo.
character. Yeah, it's my... Kind of.
I mean...
Kind of. But it's, like, that in itself is, like, a symbol of strength for me. And it's easy to put her into situations. That's why I can make, like, 14 hats in one shot. I was like, oh, now she is eating an ice cream, and now she is breaking a tank to stop war, and now she is dancing, and now she's skateboarding.
Fuck yeah.
So, long story short, I think, like, and who knows in time, like, what that will change in my art, but I think it's necessary for artists to grow and to change. And, like, this doesn't necessarily mean that I'm more commercial, because, like, I ended up, like, showing my things to galleries, and they're like, it's not clean enough, it's not commercial enough, it doesn't have a frame, it doesn't have all these things, and then I feel it. I'm like, my inner kid is hurt by that statement. I'm like, it's not even his fault, he's just telling the truth. But it's like, I need to respect that little kid that, like, I started this for. I don't even fucking care about that guy.
But, well, I totally understand that, and you put so much of your personality into this character, this anonymous character, that anyone in the world, human-wise, as I understand it, if you put efforts and you identify those efforts as something that you want to become, because it's a goal of yours.
Dude,
because
it's creating yourself.
Exactly. So anybody who says something a little rough about it, of course it can tingle in the wrong way.
I'm going to share you the one little quote that changed my life. So there's this lady called Marie Claire. She's 82 years old. She's like a friend of mine that I met at Desserts, Omar Dessert. And basically, I don't even know how to, basically she's like, oh, I like your outfit. And I'm like, oh, you're swanky too. And we started to chat. And then I invited her to an art night. And basically what this lady does is, like, she's super cool. She's an artist herself. She also studied under a philosopher for, like, 4 years. So she has these, like, kind of collections of these, like, quotes and things that she's collected through her entire life. And what she does is she creates these little, like, fortune cookies. And she gives them to people. And the one that she gave me, dude, was... It was in French, so I'm kind of butchering the translation, but I'm going to say it how it means to me. It's, to know yourself is cool, but to create yourself is cooler.
If there's one take from this whole thing that I hope it's still recording, is to know yourself is cool, to create yourself is way cooler.
And it doesn't mean that it's kind of in a weird way a sign of acceptance. Because you're saying, this is who I want to be, and I'm going to be that regardless of the fucking outcome and regardless of other people's opinion.
And I wanted to reflect on that because you mentioned your anonymous character and your reflection on who Lil Angie was. Now that's a reflection of you yourself as one person, the evolution that got you there. Your past is another version. That's a relationship you have to have with your past. And your past doesn't need to be decades ago. It can be who you were yesterday. What's your relationship?
100%, dude.
And the relationship with the person that you're going to be tomorrow is, if the person that you're going to be tomorrow is going to not be satisfied with the person that you were yesterday, perhaps that's where the dynamics needs to be most fixed. And I'm glad to say that at some point I did the work like you did of trying to understand how I feel about me tomorrow. And yeah, acceptance, I think, is a very, very strong word in that essence, because of the fact that I was always trying to give so much, and still I'm working on that, to the person that I am tomorrow, the person that I'll be tomorrow. And
see, I'm doing it on the today, on the now, because I don't know who I'm going to be tomorrow.
But that's fine.
And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
But that's fine. And the bad relationship, or the little issue that I had, or perhaps still am having, is the fact
so
that...
has was, right?
is the fact that, well, perhaps given so much of the person that I will be tomorrow is leaving me quite empty on the person that I am today. And about the moment and the ephemeral stuff, well, makes it so that, oh oh yeah, that memoir, that memory is going to be amazing, but the moments maybe not so much, and that's really sad. And I'd like to hop on a question about that. Is okay, that might be a trick question.
Let's see.
Would you rather
Oh.
blue? That's the answer.
It's the Matrix. Choose, do you want red pill or blue pill?
I choose the orange Lego.
Ayo! Life hack.
Would you rather live every single moment of your life to the fullest without remembering them? Or would you rather remembering perfectly every moment of your life without really living them? So you're stuck with, I remember everything, but I remember as well how much.
I think the first one is kind of like my life already. Because I have the fucking memory of a goldfish. I can't tell you what I did yesterday. It's focusing on the now.
Okay.
Because for me, it's like, it's focus on the now. I don't maybe remember it, but I have a photo, I have a video, I have all this documentation of me doing it, so I know
Thank
for
you,
a fact
technology.
that it did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't focus too much on the past because it's like it happened. You can't change anything about it. So even a project, dude, I'm like, oh, that's so last week.
You can't change anything about it, but it can still change you. But if you don't remember it, how can it make you grow?
I don't think.
Here's another thing about that.
No, because we're every day you're starting fresh. In my opinion, that's how I'm doing it.
Yeah, I agree. Every day is a new day, and you take the cards that you dealt with. Some days you wake up and everything's easy.
It's like, to me, I don't really care if I remember it. That's not important to me, because like at the end of the day, one day I'll die, and like I'll cease to exist, and like what do my memories have to do with anything if there's already all these documenting things and there's other people perceiving the same lifetime?
Totally understand. Totally vibe with that. Have you ever met someone who with whom you have great moments and saw that person not there in their memory, like Alzheimer and that type of stuff?
My great grandma had Alzheimer's. Her name was Angela.
It sounds familiar for some reason.
Yeah, my full name is Angela Miljanovic. Angela, the same spelling as my Slovenian great-grandma. Go figure. And that was my dad's mom. And they tell me that I looked very much like her. She was like a singer and stuff. And there was like a moment in her time that like near her like passing away, like she got old also.
Mm-hmm.
But it was strange because like, for some reason, the way that her disease worked, it's like she didn't remember a lot of people and a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But she remembered my father. So she would like go get a visit from my uncle and then go tell my dad that like, oh, a strange man came and visit. She's like, that's your like grandson. And it's like, I think in times of this, like they tell me like when you get to a certain age, you also become a kid again. So it's that whole cycle of life.
Wait, when you what?
A certain age, like when you're 80, 90, you become like a little kid all over again.
What you mean by you become a little kid? Exactly.
Excited about little things, about seeing people. You're wearing diapers again, dude.
Fuck
You're
yeah!
like,
Shout out to diapers!
Yeah, like she would just get, like she had Alzheimer's, so she would just be, like she's in her, living her bubble, like fucking singing and shit, like doesn't care about,
well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, hopefully
and, like,
it's the case.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different escalations to that, but that's at least like, of my person, and I never actually met her. She passed away before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that she's left like an imprint definitely on my dad's life to the point where like it was part of the reasoning of the naming of me.
Which is something, would you consider it something positive?
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
Like I definitely think that her existence was positive,
yeah.
And like I think one really big thing to mention about this is like I also lived in Serbia and my grandma raised me there. Mm-hmm. So it's like my grandma is one of the biggest like fighters, fucking strongest women that I know, because like what she did is she went through like generations of taking care of people. So she went from raising my father and raising his brother to then her mom got sick, which is like Angela, the grandmother. So she took care of her, and Angela is now a baby again. So she's like, she just changed her diaper and she had to do it again, and she doesn't remember, and she no. And then her husband got sick, so she took care of him, and then I entered the chat. Oh no, and then my two cousins. So that's like already like 7-8 people. And then I fucking entered the chat, and then she raises me for like a good beginning portion of my life, the most hardest parts of, I think, a kid, like the ones that you're kind of being a little shithead. And then
I was never.
Yeah, sure.
It was always. I never made any teachers cry.
I don't remember it personally myself, but I remember like if I'm ADHD like now, like I can't imagine the fucking like ruckus. I would just go to school and I would like get hurt somehow. Like I ran into a wall on my birthday. I have a scar on my forehead here.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Oh no, wait.
Actually, it's
boink.
Another one.
Boink. And it was so funny because like they went to stitch me up, and because it was my birthday, they put like a bow on my fucking forehead. So when it was time to take it out, they had to like rip out the stitches because it was like literally a knot that they. Anyways.
Great idea.
So basically, I don't think memory to me is important, because I also know that maybe like due to genetics or whatever the fuck, maybe I'm in that line of maybe I won't remember something one day. And that to me is like something that I can't spend my life stressing over. That's why I have to have such an importance on making something good right now.
Okay.
That's not just for me.
Okay.
I'm trying to create for an experience, to create a movement, to create like a new type of system, honestly, like that's not even for me, like that I just want to be a part of. And like once it's done, it's done. I hope that it just like gets remembered. Because
when you die once and your physical body's not there anymore.
Dude, I want to live forever, but not forever. That would be kind of gross. Being like 300 years old.
No, I mean, I love, and we don't have time to discuss the details of it. Perhaps another
like
episode.
Life and death, and it's just like so like.
But I love the fact that we're getting older and we're not. We have an expiration date. It gives value. It gives value to everything that you do. Yeah. You do. What? No, that's a new intro.
Yeah. Boink. Shit. But yeah, and that's the also another thing that we were talking about, which was like the importance of art in like new systems, or like the importance of art in the public. Like earlier you were asking me about like what would you change, or what do you see in the streets or something like that, or like where do you think your art belongs, when we talked about buildings and stuff. I don't remember the exact question.
Me neither.
But it's basically along the lines of like, I think that there's so many things lacking creatively like on the streets, meaning that like there's so much power that, let's say, a mural can have. If you put in a positive message and you make it clear and you make it visible where people can actually see that's not just in an alleyway, it allows kids to start thinking creatively, like it influences. And the whys come naturally. And the whys and the how and the where and the whatever. And I feel like there's so many things, like art is like treated as like a commodity, where it's just like if you hire a designer to create a logo, it's instantly going to be created and that logo is going to be huge and it's going to be everywhere, but they're not putting that same type of energy into just like the grand human experience, meaning like, okay, there's a construction happening, instead of putting a gray, gross, giant tarp for like half the year or for 4 years, you could just, in that space, in that void, find a positive message or something that can be printed on this thing that can still influence people. Because we know for a fact that color can influence emotions and everything in your life. Yeah, definitely. So it's like watering those flowers, but in like a colorful way. It's like kind of nurturing the streets, dude, nurturing the concrete.
It's literally
like,
giving colors to your life. God damn.
Yeah, but it's like my head is constantly filling these spaces, these gaps in my head, and I just wish that like sometimes like city projects can see that see all these empty spaces as an opportunity, and like find an artist to collaborate with, and like find a way that it's just like a more pleasant.
Yeah, it embellishes everybody's life because we've all been in that situation. We're walking down a street, and for a quick moment, we just realize, damn, it's pretty fucking beautiful, right? That the way the trees, the colors, the sunshine, the clouds, wow, that's pretty. And at that moment, I don't know what's the speed of that feeling
the
inside.
Speed of the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the speed of the moment?
Oh no, that's another chapter. That gives you that just like, okay, yeah, life is good for like that little moment that you're like.
Imagine you would be walking and you see a little frog on a lily pad. You would be like, oh, that's kind of cute. Like little things like, I'm not saying put a frog on a fucking lily pad. I'm just saying like,
but definitely
instead of
one.
putting like STM out of service, like no, and like I get it. It's the
useful,
font
yeah.
is necessary, it's useful, you're trying to convey a message, just maybe a bad example. But I'm saying like when there is like these gaps of like construction or like an empty space like between the rotation of a new owner of a building, it just says alloué, like for sale, like, and it's there for years and it's just empty, and then it gets broken, and then people like, but maybe if you made it prettier, people would not feel so necessary to break it or destroy, or like they would find a new way of respecting it or appreciating it.
Yeah, and that's communication right there, because like telepathy, like we were talking off screen about, it literally generates an image in your brain, in your mind, and that is what marketing at best. It's what it does. That's the essence of marketing. But see, marketing is sometimes different because it's really focused on the money part. Sometimes,
so they want to fuck with you psychologically.
Many
They're gonna
times,
be. Did you see that? Oh my God, the evolution of the Pepsi symbol.
Yeah.
It was some girl showing how it looks like yin and yang, and how it's like also using the golden ratio, and how it's like subliminally like trying to make a certain, it's connecting certain things in your brain, where it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like that's where that division starts happening of like what is art that is actually helping people, and what is art that is not abuse, but it's like not using people, but it's like it's being manipulative. It's manipulating
it's
you.
It's a direct
so why
influence.
don't we start manipulating in a fucking positive way?
Yeah, that's how every villain started.
No, this is my villain origin story.
Oh, there you go. Here. I'm glad we have this on camera. If I'm not there tomorrow, all of y'all know why.
Yeah, literally, I'm in jail tomorrow.
But I've been slowly but surely trying to understand marketing and that type of thing, and I came to the same conclusion as you just did. It's manipulation. I feel like I'm influencing a lot people. But the difference I'm trying to make is that I'm trying to make them aware of what, like, bro, if I'm trying to sell you something, it's because I genuinely believe or whatever. Yeah. But about the marketing part, you were right to say that marketing is directly linked to money. That's hardwired for sure. Now, about art and manipulating positively people, the layers, before it happens to the money part, it's just so far apart that of course people are not going to be like, putting it beautifully is going to be beneficial because people are going to be happy, they're going to spend more, and economy is going to circulate and flower. And it's what we were talking about,
the thing earlier, it's like, instead of manipulation, I think there should be more education. Meaning like before that whole start is like, you teach people what art is and what it's supposed to feel to you and mean to you, because then you have that understanding of the deeper self. Because even if I tried my very best to make the best painting ever and show it to you with all these like convoluted metaphors, if you don't know what you're looking at, it's useless. If you can't get that message across, it's useless. It's the same with the Pepsi thing. If you can't get people to buy it in the end, it's a failure. So it's like all we're trying to do as artists sometimes is we're trying to create this like communication, this like
Whoa.
change of systems in which like what I was talking about earlier, like I wanted to at some point in my life like start creating like children's book and stuff because I feel like children are the future. Children are the people that are consuming books and like they're trying to learn about the world.
They're the us of tomorrow.
But sometimes I feel like we say, oh, this subject is too heavy for a child to understand, so we're not going to teach it at this time or another time. But it makes it like either like they're desensitized to this reality or like maybe they don't understand it fully. I think that they're like art should be used as a tool, as a way of marketing, but positive things that are tough to. I think things like I said, there's that one Keith Haring book about babies, and it's more talking about like how we are not the beginning, we are not the end, we are the grand human experience. When we stop like labeling each other, it's like that's the first sign of like racism and stuff. It's like these things should be taught to a kid. Gender, love, power, family.
In a playground, the earliest, like the youngest children in a playground, they don't give a damn about those type of things.
No.
They're just gonna all play together. And when you can spark that feeling into an adult is when you see the inner child like blossoming out of this world, right?
But I would like to just also like point out that not every kid gets that same beginning. So my vision is like this idea started out with like there's this girl that I know and she works for like it's not a co-op, it's like it's a space for kids who have been either taken away from their homes or like abandoned, like they're orphans or they're from like a very hard situation in which they've been removed. And like yes, now they have a safe space, quote unquote, whatever, for them to sleep. And yes, they sometimes get donations from like the city and it's like, okay, here's a book for you to read or whatever. But usually those things are like given away. It's like, oh, I'm done with this book. I've had this book for years. I don't want this book anymore. It's not, I'm going to give that kid my favorite book that has influenced me. Sometimes these kids get the leftovers and they just fall through the cracks of the system because like they're not being inspired. They're not being forced to think creatively, and they're the ones that fucking need it the most. I'm not saying that everyone needs that, but it's like art is therapy, dude, and I think it's necessary to treat it as such, not as a commodity, not as like an item to be sold, not as something commercial, but for it to actually be a tool. And like this should be taught like straight off the bat. And I would like to be delusional that someone can create some sort of new like commentary, some sort of new way of getting people to learn these things, rather than using recycled old media that maybe didn't even work for the generation before. Outdated, maybe missing pages, dude.
Yeah, and the most important pages because whatever. Yeah. But definitely, I like the way you describe art as a therapy because I think for everybody there's a sad song we've listened to way too many times in a dark moment because
in
whatever.
In a dark room in the middle of YouTube.
In a very, very dark, huge room. That I was finally at peace, confronting what the young version of me.
It was literally you being like, and cut and action, like it was the ending of your day.
Exactly. And should I be able to talk to my young version of me who was terribly afraid of the dark, like problematically afraid of the dark at night and shit? Well, I'd be like, bro, embrace it. It is that going confrontational directly in it, and music helped me as well a lot with filtering out what was going on inside 100%. And organizing the emotions and being like, okay, all the bad feeling, it's not a social mask, it's not another version of me, it's this song right now. Yeah. And I'm gonna put it away for a moment. I'm gonna live my day. I'm gonna have a good day. When I come back home tonight, I'll dive right into cold water, refresh myself with that in a controlled kind of environment. Should I
get
say?
it. It's like we're gonna use
yeah.
these as a metaphor. It's like this is your music, and this is, wow, this is like your bad feelings. And as like you're creating music, you're slowly taking a little piece of yourself and you're adding it to the music, and then you're adding more. And then all of a sudden you have most of your pieces like on the other side, and now this doesn't belong to you anymore. This is the new creation that you've created, and this is yourself.
Me and
And
my
then
goosebumps.
if you want, you can just be the music. And look, you're a little character. You're like,
Bro, that's, I mean, sis, that is fucking insane. Me and my goosebumps, I've gotten emotional because of that, because goddamn, that makes...
we're all just piecing ourselves together. We're all just little puzzle pieces.
That's the beautifulest
Broken
way
little
of...
Lego.
That's the beautifulest way
And
of
you
ending...
must let go of your ego. Lego your ego, dude.
I like that. And yeah, that's the mostest, beautifulest way of finishing a podcast episode.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fuck yeah. So...
create yourself, build yourself, just like a Lego.
Yeah.
Sometimes you receive a box and you're like, whoa, what is all that? Just check the instructions, just do it piece by piece. And
Yeah.
slowly you'll turn into one of those plastic flowers that Lego now has to offer for like $1,000.
Yeah, oh damn. So on this beautiful note, thank you, Angie, for being part
My
of
pleasure.
this.
Officer.
Officer,
and we're out.
Yeah, I hope it's still recording because
Can you imagine? Oh my god, did it not record?
it did record.